Back into it with the help of that man, Paul George, leading LA. Let's see if he can lead them past the Suns tonight. And here's Kirk Goldsberry on how PG-13's game has evolved.
As we've seen this postseason, Paul George is still one of the best scorers in the league. And if the Suns want to beat the Clippers, they'll need to slow him down. George can score from everywhere, but at 31, he now does the biggest share of his damage out here, beyond the three-point line. He made a staggering 53% of his corner threes this season. He can shoot from every angle, but his numbers get better the closer he gets to the corners. Nobody leaves PG in the corner. Moving inside the arc, George can hit pull-ups and fadeaways in the mid-range. He hit 47.4% of his 213 non-paint twos this year. That's not just way above league average, that's better than his teammate Kawhi Leonard's percentages in these areas.
He'll rise over the top, he got the foul call, he put it in! Paul George! Tonight, the man has been rated R.
I just dug into a place that I've been already in my career, come out and lead with the ball club.
George's paint numbers are surprisingly below league average, making just 60% of his shots in the restricted area this season. Kawhi shot 75% here. He may not be Kawhi, but Paul George is still the single most important scorer in this series.
For more on this series and ahead of Game 3, and of course SportsCenter with Stephen A. at the top of the hour, we say hello to Stephen A. Smith, who's joining us from LA. Hello, Stephen A. Okay, so yes, the Clippers find themselves in familiar territory, down 0-2 in a series, but it felt more like a missed opportunity because Devin Booker was largely ineffective in Game 2. How do you expect Booker to rebound tonight?
Well, first things first, it wasn't a missed opportunity just because of the way Devin Booker performed. It was a missed opportunity because Paul George, who had been playing great over the last 4 games or so, went to the line with 8.2 seconds left and missed both free throws. I would remind everybody he's an 84.8% shooter during the career-wise, 86.8% this season. And of the 100-plus times he had been to the free throw line to shoot 2, he only missed both of them 1 time all season long, and that was in February until he missed 2 back-to-back free throws the other night. So that's the reason why they lost, because you can't call that inbounds play for DeAndre Ayton if you need a 3 to tie the score, and that's the opportunity that was blown. Having said all of that, to get directly to your point about Devin Booker, we don't expect a duplicate performance. He had a bloody nose. He wasn't breathing right, wasn't feeling right. They banged him up a little bit, no question about that. And Patrick Beverley is a professional pest who obviously is a defensive wizard to some degree. He's really a stout defender. He's not fearful of anything or anyone. So he's going to get in you and going to make you work for everything that you get. Devin Booker still stepped up and hit a big-time jump shot with about 27 seconds left in regulation. And I think that's an indication of things to come in Game 3 tonight. I don't think that you'll see a duplicate performance. He's averaging over 28 in the postseason, shooting better than 49% from the field. I think you'll see something closer to that for Game 3. Doesn't mean they'll win, but you won't see a duplicate performance from Game 2 from Devin Booker.
You mentioned it. He's averaging 28 points a game. He was maybe due for a down performance, and I think a lot of people would take it down as 20 points and a win. Let's talk about something we hit earlier in the show with Adrian Wojnarowski, and that is surrounding Ben Simmons and his agent, Rich Paul. Woj is reporting that they met with the Sixers management on whether it makes sense to work together to find a trade before the start of next season, but no request was made, and the sides are expected to continue conversations. Sixers are committed, per Woj, to keeping Simmons as a central piece of their franchise. This, again, is according to some sources. Okay, that's what we're hearing. This is the report. Stephen A., you're on the record saying that the Sixers should trade Simmons away. So when you hear about these talks, right, between the organization and Rich Paul, what do you think?
That means nothing to me. I mean, the season's over for the Philadelphia 76ers, and here's what it comes down to, Al. Rich Paul is the agent for Ben Simmons, so he's doing his job. He's trying to ingratiate himself into things to be actively involved on behalf of Ben Simmons. In other words, we're not asking for a trade, but if you're going to trade him, could you consult with us and make sure that we have some say as it pertains to our next location? That's what Rich Paul is trying to do, and every damn good agent in the business does it. Eric and Aaron Goodwin Goodwin does it. Bill Duffy does it. Jeff Swartz does it. Mark Bartelstein does it. They all will try to do that. But in the end, this is the Sixers' call. And whatever deal the Sixers can get for Ben Simmons, they better make sure it's a good one, because the dude is an incredible talent. He's 24 years of age. He's 6'10". He's got a nasty handle, high basketball IQ, can pass and all of that other stuff, and clearly is an elite defender. I have a vote. He was my Defensive Player of the Year. But as I said, every single year he's been in the league, he can't shoot. And in his case, it's even worse because he won't even try. And oh, by the way, the coach, former coach Brett Brown told him. Doc Rivers told him. Elton Brand told him. Daryl Morey told him. His agent, Rich Paul, told him. He hasn't listened to anybody. Still won't shoot the damn ball. That's why he finds himself in this situation right now. The Sixers won't trade him for garbage. He's too good of a talent to just let get away for nothing. But if they get the right deal, say an Andrew Wiggins and a couple of first-round picks from Golden State, say a C.J. McCollum from Portland or something like that, they get something like that, he's gone. They don't get something like that, they keep him and pray all the time that one day he'll get a jump shot. That's really what this comes down to.
That sounds like a great recipe for success. Just pray that it happens and see if it does. Stephen A.
Divine intervention.
Divine intervention.
Om Youngmisuk to talk about this. He joins us. And yesterday, you mentioned the Clippers have faith in Lou to make adjustments after once again trailing 0-2 in a playoff series. So what adjustments do you expect Ty Lue to do tonight?
It's crazy. They're down 0-2, and Paul George says that they feel even more confident this time around. And guess what? Because of Ty Lue, the Clippers call him Bill Belichick. He might need our Teddy Bruschi to help him out tonight. Lou recently told me that he has a notes folder in his phone where he jots down ideas in the middle of the night to come to him. He's going to need all that and more. But he's done these series-turning adjustments so far, like Nick Batum, putting him into a smaller lineup and beating Dallas with that. And then in the second round, giving Rudy Gobert fits by starting Terrence Mann when Kawhi Leonard went down and winning 4 straight games against Utah. Tonight, he has his work cut out for him, though, because Chris Paul's coming back, and he's got to worry about Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. He's got his hands full. But listen, we'll see if Ty Lue has any more magic left in that notes folder of his.
Yeah, and if he could stick up to that Belichickian description there. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Now let's bring in NBA analyst Tim Legler. Okay, so Tim, I ask you the same question. What adjustments do you think Ty Lue and the Clippers need to make tonight?
Listen, there's not a lot left that we haven't seen. They've gone small before. They did it against Utah, but this is a different team because DeAndre Ayton can punish small lineups. Rudy Gobert couldn't, making you pay on the other end. So we've seen that. They adjusted the starting lineup last game. It was a little bit more successful. Patrick Beverley certainly did a good job on Devin Booker. For me, more than adjustments, it just comes down to, in the game's biggest moment, they've got to be a little bit better. That's what it is. And if you go back to the other night, Paul George obviously has an opportunity to put that game away and doesn't get it done. And then they give up the dunk on this baseline out of bounds play. So they're going to be in one-possession games in this series. Tonight could be there again. They've got to be better when it matters most. And I think they got to obviously be better on their guards because Cameron Payne, Booker in game 1, Cameron Payne in game 2 have gone anywhere they want to with the basketball. So if you wanted to talk about a defensive adjustment, be better at the point of attack there. But really, you just have to be better in those moments that are going to decide this game.
Yeah, 2 free throws made by Paul George, and this whole series complexion is different. We'll see what they do tonight. Now, Tim, let's run through some player props tonight in the pick and roll. And let's start with this. CP3, over or under 16.5 points tonight?
I kind of like the under on this just because, look, he's missed some time. He's injecting himself back into the lineup, and I do think he may be more of a playmaker in this game. Devin Booker struggled in game 2, so I think Chris Paul's going to try to make sure he gets going, so maybe he takes on more of that point guard leadership role and doesn't have a huge scoring night.
Okay, my favorite prop bets are always the one where it's not the biggest star. So Marcus Morris Sr., 11.5 points, over or under on that one?
Well, listen, not only do I think he's going to go over, I'm going to say this. If he doesn't go over, they're going to be down 3-0. He's been a very important part of their offense because he's more than just a spot-up three-point shooter. He's got a mid-range. He can post guys. He can take guys off the dribble, and he's been very quiet to this point in the series. They need him to get going, and I think a change of scenery going home is going to help him.
Okay, I love this one. DeAndre Ayton, 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists combined. Do you like the over or under on that one?
I think this is an easy over because I think there's no way you keep this guy under 12, 13 rebounds. So that means he just got to go for 14, 15 points. And he's 22 for 29 from the field so far. They haven't had a great answer because the Suns are so good on the perimeter and they move the ball so well. When you get extended trying to guard their perimeter players, that's when DeAndre Ayton just absolutely kills you with slips, dives, offensive glass. He's good in the post. He's just a very skilled big man that gets a lot of opportunities because of who he's playing with. So I think that's the easiest one of the 3 picks. I think that's an easy over.
He has come into his own this postseason. I would take that over every day of the week.
The one and only Paul George, he scored 9 points in the final 3 minutes of game 2, but missed 2 critical free throws that could have put the Clippers up 3 with 8 seconds left in game 2. To some people, the news was that the Phoenix Suns won games 1 and 2 without the services of Chris Paul. The news should be Chris Paul is expected to return for game 3 tonight. Chris Paul, a surefire future first ballot Hall of Famer in the world of basketball. One of the greatest point guards to have ever played this game. Somebody who has scored more points than anyone to not have won an NBA championship or even been to the NBA Finals. That is not a distinction that Chris Paul enjoys. At this point in time in his career, it's all about the chip. It's all about winning a championship. It's all about capturing that level of glory that has escaped and evaded him throughout his entire illustrious career. He knows he's not getting any younger. He knows the days like this are pretty hard to come by. He's this close, and he's more determined than ever before to not blow that opportunity. Now, let's kick it to our reporters on the scene. Let's start with Dave McMenamin on Chris Paul.
Thanks, Stephen A. Well, after an 8-day absence, Chris Paul will return to the lineup for the Phoenix Suns in Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals in Los Angeles. He's been dealing with the health and safety protocol the NBA requires, but he's been asymptomatic for quite some time. And remember, last time we saw him on the basketball court, he was playing some of the best basketball of his 16-year career, completely dominating the Denver Nuggets in the second round. But Jay Crowder, his teammate, said, hey, I don't care if Chris Paul only puts up 2 points in Game 3. His impact will be felt no matter what. Now for a report on the LA Clippers, let's go to Om Young-Masu.
Kawhi Leonard isn't the only critical injury for the Clippers. Marcus Morris's knee injury has limited him to a total of just 11 minutes in the second half of the last 2 games. Morris is crucial to the Clippers' ability to not only play a small defensive lineup that can switch, but his offense is also a game changer. When Morris shoots 50% or better, the Clippers are 28-5, including 6-0 in the playoffs. Besides Morris, I'm hearing that the Clippers are banged up. They haven't had time to heal, with this being their 12th game in 23 days. Back to you, Stephen A.
Thanks, Om. You know, I'm happy to be joined right here in studio with the NBA champion himself, Kendrick Perkins, and, of course, the Basketball Hall of Famer, Mike Wilbon. Wilbon, let's start with you. CP3 expected to return tonight. What kind of impact you expect him to have?
The kind of impact he had all season, the kind of impact that led them to 2nd seed in the entire NBA in terms of record. Listen, you look at Game 2, and the Suns win this game, but Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, and Jay Crowder shot 7 for 26, Stephen A. We know who's going to get them better shots. You know, the cliche, he makes everybody better. It doesn't apply to anybody more than it applies to Chris Paul, and particularly in this season. You look at those 3 guys right there. You think the Devin Booker is going to have more turnovers than baskets? That's what happened in Game 2. More turnovers, 7 to baskets, 5. That's not happening tonight.
What about you, Perk?
You know, when I look at CP3 and his effect, we have to all remember when he left the Clippers, that was a bad breakup. So him coming into this game tonight, remember, he's on a mission. He wants to beat these guys. And like Wilborn just said, Stephen A., look, those guys in that locker room, they're going to feel that energy with CP3 back on the floor. And if the Clippers couldn't beat them without CP3,
right,
what you think is going to happen
Well, before
tonight?
I move on to my second question, Mike Wilbon, I think we got to take a moment here to give Big Perk some props there. The suit game is kind of fly right there. The shirt with the tie. Very nice, Big Perk. I want to give you some love. Very nice. But I'll ask both of you this question real quick before I go to my next question. Patrick Beverley We know what a pest he can be on the defensive end of the floor. Paul George, he's capable of defending. Reggie Jackson is not a slouch per se. And Chris Paul's been out the last 2 games. Could Russ potentially be a factor with CP3, either of you guys?
I don't see it happening. I mean, at the end of the day, we know that he's been in his home in L.A., but we also know that he has a full court basketball court there. Yes. So CP3 has probably been working out. He's a true professional, Stephen A.
He hadn't been out 2 weeks. He's been out 2 games. And not only that, that shoulder probably feels better. Perk would know more about this. Probably feels better than at any time since the playoffs started because he's gotten some rest and treatment and practice. So I don't see Russ being a problem for long, maybe a half. That's about it.
Let me transition to an uncomfortable subject because I love Paul George. I think he's class personified, and obviously I think he's a star in this league, but he has something to prove coming into this postseason. And from the moment Kawhi went down, 31, 31, 37 points, the last 3 games of the semifinal series against Utah, had 26, he had 26 in game 2 the other night. We know what he brought to the table, but we also saw him miss 2 pivotal free throws, 8.2 seconds left, missed both. The only time this year in over 100 tries that he missed back-to-back free throws was in February. Big Perk, I'll start with you. How big was the opportunity missed by Paul George when he missed those 2 late free throws?
Well, you know it's crazy because he had been playing so well, but when you look at him at the free throw line, knew he was going to miss the second one because he was blowing in his hands. He was nervous. He was nervous like me going into the Catholic Church and have to go repent my sins in front of the priest. That's how nervous Paul George was. But you know, at the end of the day, you know what I don't like, and the great Doc Rivers always used to tell us. Everyone, and including myself, I'm falling victim into this. Everyone looks at the last possessions of the game and forget what happens in the first, second, and third quarter. And I hate that he got put in that position, but with that being said, Kevin Garnett used to tell me, this is why we get paid the big bucks. We deliver in the fourth quarter when it matters the most.
Will Bond?
Sometimes should have is followed by redemption. You get that chance back. Sometimes should have is just should have. And that's the question now about the Clippers. They should have gotten game 2. But now you have the circumstances changing where Kawhi doesn't come back and Chris Paul does, and Paul George has this. I loved his demeanor after the game. We talked about, what happened, missing the free throws and come back the next game. But sometimes you don't get that chance back. The Clippers had 2 chances to take advantage of Chris Paul's absence and did not. And what happens now?
And I'm waiting for people to acknowledge this, guys. The Phoenix Suns are not the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz had a superstar in Donovan Mitchell, but surrounded by a bunch of people because Mike Conley was out. Mike Conley Jr. was out. So he was surrounded by a bunch of people who needed him to create shots for them. That's not the Phoenix Suns. It's nice to have CP3 creating shots for you, but Devin Booker doesn't need CP3 to create a shot from him. Cameron Payne doesn't need CP3, and that's his sub, that's his backup. You don't necessarily need stuff like that if you're the Phoenix Suns, and that's the difference. And that, with Kawhi Leonard's absence, Clippers in a world of trouble. They better win tonight. I'm just going to tell you. Playoff rookie Devin Booker has been the Suns' leading scorer this postseason. Kirk Goldsberry takes an in-depth look at Booker's game and evolution in the latest Off the Charts. Check it out.
It's time for Devin Booker's close-up. At 24 years old, Booker is already one of the most complete scorers in the game. And in his first playoff appearance, he's showcasing it all. Let's start here in the paint, where Booker scored 9.8 of his 25.6 points per game this season. Only the gigantic DeAndre Ayton scored more for the Suns here this year. Booker is both crafty and athletic as a driving finisher, as the Lakers found out the hard way in their first round series.
Booker with a season high 47.
You got to tip your hat.
I love everything about D-Book. It's been a long time coming.
It doesn't stop there. Booker is active and elite here in the mid-range. By making over 49% of his mid-rangers, he ranked 6th in the NBA in mid-range shooting efficiency and 5th in mid-range points per game. While many of today's young players avoid the mid-range, Booker thrives here and is especially dangerous around the elbows, which might be his signature shot. Beyond the arc, Booker can be both hot and cold, shooting 34% overall. Now, his success depends greatly on how he gets into his shot. As a pull-up three-point shooter, Booker hit just 25% of his attempts. That's chilly, folks. However, as a clean catch-and-shoot threat, Booker made a fiery 44% from downtown. If the Clippers give him too many catch-and-shoot looks, they're going to get burned.
We now welcome in ESPN senior NBA writer Mark Spears. Spears, Devin Booker showed competitive fire in Game 2, especially going back out there with a broken nose. What do you know about his preparation for playing with a mask on his face this go-round?
Well, when Devin was getting fitted for his mask yesterday, guess who he called? Richard "Rip" Hamilton. Nobody better to call than him. Rip, as you know, made it famous to wear a mask with the Detroit Pistons. He got his nose broken like 3 times, and he's the mask whisperer. He's talked to Joel Embiid, J.R. Smith, and even the great late Kobe Bryant about what to do to wear a mask. And he actually told Book, here's my advice to you. Don't take it off during the game, whether you're on a free throw, whether you're on the bench, anytime. You got to get used to it, and actually it's like a cape, so to speak. You'll feel more confident going to the basket and not worried about getting hit. Now, one thing that Rip did tell me is he got anesthesia every time he broke his nose. He said Book didn't use anesthesia when they fixed his nose. That if that's not an example of toughness, I don't know what is. But they actually met at some beach in New Jersey when Book was 17 years old, and Book grew up a Pistons fan, and his favorite player just happened to be Rip Hamilton. Rip Hamilton had no idea who he was, but after he went to Kentucky, they kept in touch. They've been great friends, and they talk all the time. But so when he needed a mask, you know he had to call Rip Hamilton.
I got you. You threw me off for a second there bringing up beaches in New Jersey because I've been living in New Jersey for years, and I haven't been to a beach. But anyway, let's move on.
You're a New York guy. You don't go there.
I got you. According to our very own Tim McMahon, the Pacers are hiring former Mavs coach Rick Carlisle. What has been the response to that hiring around the league?
Well, disappointment, especially from coaches of color. There was no wide search for this job. It was known from the beginning that it was going to go to Rick Carlisle. Carlisle's had an amazing career. He's a Hall of Fame coach. There's no question about it. But the only thing they did was call Brian Shaw. Brian Shaw did an interview for the job. I hear that the expectation was it would be a token interview, and that's something he didn't want to do. So, meanwhile, the Minnesota Timberwolves were irate because the Coaches Association, which is run by Rick Carlisle, gave them a hard time when they did the exact same thing a couple months ago. So the Timberwolves' question is, hey, Coaches Association, what are you going to say now that Rick Carlisle essentially did the same thing with the Pacers?
Can't ignore that, especially when Rick Carlisle had 2 years left on his deal and he elected to step away. So clearly he didn't step away to be unemployed. So we'll talk about that another time. Let's go on to another subject. Looking back at his Dallas exit, Carlisle mentioned Jason Kidd as a potential successor. Yeah. What do you make of that?
Well, if you read between the lines, it's very interesting that he didn't mention Jamal Mosley. Jamal Mosley was on the bench with Rick for years, but he also was close with Doncic, and for some reason, he didn't feel like the need to promote Jamal, but Jamal's still in the mix. Wait for the Mavericks to get a general manager, and then they'll figure it out. But, hey, Jason Kidd is certainly a great candidate for this job. Dirk Nowitzki's helping him with the hire. He played with Dirk. He won a championship there. He's coached with the Nets and the Bucks. He's certainly ready, and he told me he's interested in the job as well. So we'll see how that call comes out. But Carlisle's shade on Mosley, I don't know if that was necessary.
Always love seeing you on the scene, my man. Always good to see you, Mark Spears. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.
Thanks, brother.
All right. More news today concerning Ben Simmons of the Philadelphia 76ers. Sources told our very own Adrian Wojnarowski that discussions between Simmons' agent Rich Paul and Sixers management have started this week to begin evaluating the next steps in Simmons' Sixers career. Mike Wilbon, Big Perk, back with yours truly. Which team would be the best fit for Ben Simmons if it's not Philadelphia, Wilbon?
I may surprise you a little bit. How about the Golden State Warriors?
I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, when you look at fit, first of all, the fit, I think it's a change of scenery. That's part of the fit. Just out of Philadelphia helps the fit. I don't mean that the Sixers can't handle it. I mean, he needs the change of scenery. And if that's the case, it's a laboratory he needs, where he's got all the ingredients, Perk, where you've got a coach, where you've got executives on top of that who can support you, and where you've got a locker room full of guys who aren't chasing anything but their own status in the league, and you got that with Curry and Clay and Draymond Green. I think that would be the nice fit for him.
I'll add something to that in a second, but I want to hear what Big Perk has to say about that first.
Well, you know what? I actually like that move. But, I love the move for Ben Simmons going to Minnesota. And I think when we look at Ben Simmons, we're looking at him as a point guard. And in my eyes, I'm looking at him as a Sabonis-type player, a guy that you could initiate your offense through, a guy that you could run dribble handoffs with and have him rolling and diving to the basket, a guy that needs to be alongside a Karl Anthony Towns, okay? And then now you can move D'Lo and Malik Beasley out the way because Anthony Edwards is there, and now you have Ben Simmons at his best.
I don't like it, Big Perk, for a couple of reasons. I don't like it for a couple of reasons, Big Perk. Number one, I don't like it because I think that squad hasn't won anything. They're too young. They're not accustomed to winning. That's a bad situation for them. And number two, and more importantly, clearly you haven't done your homework on this brother's lifestyle. He loves L.A. and South Beach, okay? Going to Minnesota ain't going to cut it for Ben Simmons.
That might be a bad thing. He may need to give up. I agree with Perk on that.
That's the best thing.
You don't need no more Miami Beach.
You'll be miserable.
You put him in an environment where only he could focus on is basketball.
By the way, let me tell you this. I love him in Golden State because I love the idea of him playing with the greatest shooting backcourt in the history of basketball with Steph and Clay, and somebody that would be in his ear like Draymond Green that will not allow him to soften up or take things for granted. I think those are the kind of things that we got to look at here. Up next, Trae Young's 48.
It's possible for him and make it play a lot of one-on-one. But at the end of the day, like, he had 48 points. Right? 48 points. Like, he's a great player. Like, he's going to score with a bunch. And he has the ball a lot in his hands. But we just got to make the stuff as possible. We got to be physical with him. We just got to make it from the first minute to the last minute tough.
Wilbon, Perk, another terrific Game 1 performance from Trae to start off a series. Another Hawks 1-0 lead in the series. What did Trae show the world last night, Wilbon?
That he's great. He's already ascended past star status. He's in superstar status. He's 22 years old. There's a showmanship that he has that is natural. A lot of times when somebody's that young with that much swagger, you can get tired of him. You can say, wait a minute, let's see him later in the series. We're done with that. We've passed that point. He's passed those tests to get this far at this age. The showmanship part of it, Stephen A. I mean, look, the league can't live off LeBron and Steph Curry forever.
Right.
This young man, along with Luka and some other people, but he is leading the way for the league in terms of his performance late in the playoffs and his showmanship.
Well, there was a flip side to that story last night, Perk, and it was the Bucks. What the hell happened to them? What was that about?
Well, they showed up in their Louis slippers, polo top, linen shorts, so you know the rest, what Jay-Z said, the great hope. Look, you got to throw on your North Face because Ice Trae is in the building. It's cold. You got to dress warm. And what happened was they disrespected the game of basketball. They showed up with a sense of entitlement. They didn't have urgency. They thought that this Hawks team was just happy to be here and that they were going to lay down. They went tied on the string defensively. They was not attacking the paint. They were settling it. It was just awful to look at. And look, Milwaukee Bucks, listen, the Hawks are here for a reason, okay? They're no pushover. You got to strap your shoes up and come ready to work. Otherwise, you're going to get sent home.
Big Perk motivating everybody. I hear you. We'll get back to that a little bit later. There's Reggie Jackson. He's averaging 17 points per game while shooting 50% from the field, 42% from three, and 93% from the line in these playoffs. I think he's going to be a key tonight, fellas.
They call him hot sauce.
How about that? Must-win time for the L.A. tonight in Game 3 to overcome multiple 2-0 deficits in a single postseason. Now they'll have to do it a third time if they want to reach the finals. For more on the Clippers, here's Om Youngmisuk.
The Clippers jokingly called Ty Lue Bill Belichick. Lue is the only coach to overcome a 2-0 deficit in multiple series in the same postseason. He's made series-turning adjustments like putting Nick Batum in a smaller lineup against Dallas and starting Terrence Mann for an injured Kawhi Leonard to beat Utah. Lue told me recently that he has a notes folder in his phone where he jots down things that come to him in the middle of the night. He will need all of that tonight to help get the Clippers back in this. Back to you, Stephen A.
Thanks, Om. Clippers have their work cut out for them if they want to overcome another 0-2 deficit. Perk, let's get right to it. What can the Clippers do? What must they do to avoid an 0-3 hole?
Well, look, we already know that Devin Booker and Cam Payne been tearing them up, right? But you remember when I told y'all the other night, they got to find a way to eliminate DeAndre Ayton. He's averaging 22-11. He's controlling the game on both ends of the floor. It's nothing this young man can't do. He can switch 1 through 5 in the pick and rolls. He runs the floor like a damn gazelle. He finishes well, got nice post work. He got a nice 15-footer. And right now, they don't have an answer for him. This is not Porzingis. This is not Rudy Gobert. No, this is elite, athletic, up-and-coming rising star. By the way, a #1 draft pick, and he's showing us why.
#1 overall, ahead of Luka Doncic and Trae Young. Will Bond, can the Clippers pull this off? Can the Clippers do it again and come back from an 0-2 deficit against Phoenix the way they did?
They can't.
Previously.
They can't. Look, they could have won each one of those 2 games. They didn't. But here's the problem. Even if they are to keep Ayton in check to some degree, as Perk suggests they have to, and he's right, Booker, Crowder, Bridges are not going to play as poorly as they did. I'm just talking about offensively now in game 2. And you're adding Chris Paul. So now we're talking about the difference of these players, Booker, Crowder, Bridges, and Chris Paul. So let's just say they can find and hold Ayton down to a 14-8 game. Are they going to hold all that in check tonight? The more I think about it, Stephen A., the more I'm thinking, no, I rarely pick against a team as talented, as tough, and as well coached as the Clippers to lose a 3rd straight game in the playoffs. I just don't go in that direction. But man, the Suns have won 9 straight playoff games.
It's just me. I don't want to be negative because you know me. I'm a relatively positive dude. I don't want to be negative. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But here's the deal. You know what? I'm thinking about the Clippers' offensive prowesses. I'm also thinking about the fact that, you know what? Even though we all know Kawhi Leonard's out, it's like it almost seems like it's not a big deal to anybody. I know it's a very big deal, but I'm just saying, if it was anybody else, we'd be lamenting it all show long about them being out. We barely mentioned Kawhi Leonard being out for the Clippers. Why is that, Wilbur?
Because he's so quiet himself. The most we've ever heard Kawhi Leonard talk is in that new automobile commercial where he's he's driving. The most we've heard his voice, right?
How about that weird laugh when they were celebrating the title?
That's a great point, That's a great point.
What about that one? That's true. It's just true. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? 0-3 hole.
Big loss.
They better not lose tonight. Chris, there he is right there. Devin Booker's in front of him, but right behind him in a trench coat. I don't know why in L.A., but he is wearing a trench coat and the mask with a hat, the one and only Chris Paul. Chris Paul. He has the most All-Star selections, All-NBA selections, and playoff points among players to never play in the round. Here's our very own Jackie McMullen with the evolution of CP3.
A performance for the ages from Chris Paul. The Suns are going to the conference finals.
If you informed Chris Paul 2 years ago that he'd be the maestro of a pulsating Phoenix Suns team on the cusp of the NBA Finals, he'd insist you were grossly mistaken.
A couple years ago, they was writing me off. You can't do this, and this ain't about me, it's about us.
Houston was meant to be his final stop, where he would vie for that elusive championship alongside James Harden. Paul moved 15 people there with him. Family, friends, a trainer, nutritionist, nanny. But a devastating playoff hamstring injury in 2018 and a growing disconnect with Harden sent him packing in 2019. Paul wants things done the right way, his way. That rankled Blake Griffin with the Clippers and eventually Harden in Houston.
Grab it! Just pick it up! We gotta listen!
Former teammate Matt Barnes says Paul is one of the greatest leaders he's ever seen, but conceded, you need a strong stomach.
You gotta guard him. If you just do one of these, he gonna turn the corner.
2 questions persisted. Could Chris Paul stay healthy? And could he learn to coexist with the stars of his own team? Paul missed 24 games for the Rockets in his final season there, leading to whispers he was too slow, too old, too stubborn. But CP3 switched to a plant-based diet that increased his stamina. And when the Rockets traded him to Oklahoma City, he helped develop Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, even offering to play off the ball to give him extra reps at the point. Paul would miss only 2 games for the Thunder, and the team flourished under his direction, drama-free.
It's a level that CP3 can take you to because he makes everybody else around him better.
Ahead of his trade to Phoenix last fall, Paul called sniper Devin Booker to assure him he'd help Booker cement his status as the team's best player.
He expects greatness out of us. He expects to win. I'm inspired by him in so many different ways.
Paul also challenged young big man DeAndre Ayton with a velvet touch. Instead of scolding Ayton when he became fatigued, he encouraged him by hollering, "You're not tired." Ayton says he wants to be pushed and declared he's honored to have Chris Paul yell at him.
I know they're going to be on my tail. Me and Book need that. This team needs that.
Paul finished 5th in the MVP voting and has been celebrated for his kindler, gentler approach in leading the Suns. But he cautions, don't get carried away. I'm still me, confirmed the maestro. I expect a lot.
Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals approaches. Let's welcome in the one and only Jeff Van Gundy, who'll be on the call for tonight's game. How big of an impact, Coach, do you expect Chris Paul to have on the court tonight?
Well, he's been off, 11 days, so that's hard for any NBA player, even a great one like Chris Paul. I think you'll see him in possibly shorter spurts, but him coming back gives them, obviously, even more hope of advancing to that elusive finals for he and his team. And so I think, obviously, his reemergence will be a significant impact on this series, but maybe not tonight as much.
Kind of agree with that, Coach. Let me transition to Patrick Beverley for the Los Angeles Clippers because he seemed to have some success defending Devin Booker in Game 1. Do you expect Beverley to continue defending Booker, or should he be placed on Chris Paul tonight?
No, I think he'll definitely be on Booker. In Game 1, Booker obviously had his way with whoever guarded him for the Clippers, and I think in Game 2, with Beverley starting, they set the right tone against Booker. I was impressed with Booker, how he played, even when he was struggling to shoot the ball, how he had an impact on the game. But certainly for the Clippers to have a chance, they've got to continue to slow Booker down.
What adjustments should the Clippers make to assure a Game 3 win tonight in your estimation, based on what you've seen so far?
Well, they were 0.9 seconds away from being 1-1, and anybody who's played or coached in this league has taken gut punches on hard, close playoff losses. I think their mental state is number one, to bounce back, be energetic, play from ahead tonight once again. And then I think Paul George, he just has to be more efficient offensively. I think they got some timely offense from Luke Kennard in the fourth. Marcus Morris Sr. and Paul George have got to get back to playing highly efficient offensive basketball.
Jeff Van Gundy on the call, Game 3 tonight. Appreciate you, Coach. We'll be watching and listening. Thanks so much.
All right, absolutely, Stephen.
Kevin Durant certainly put on the show during these playoffs, averaging over 40 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists in the final 3 games of the Nets versus Milwaukee Bucks series. His former coach, Steve Kerr, gave him some very, very high praise when speaking to NBC Sports Bay Area.
He's the most talented basketball player on earth. If not of all time, honestly. He's just so gifted.
Played with Michael Jordan, and
I know.
KD is,
I know.
Is right
I think
there.
he's more gifted. I really do. I mean, that's saying something, but Kevin is a entirely different breed. I mean, 6'11", with guard skills, unlimited three-point range, passing, shot blocking at the rim. It's just stunning. And watching him this year was really, really gratifying.
Wilbon and Perk back with me. Wilbon, you heard Steve Kerr, what he had to say. What do you make of his comments about KD compared to MJ?
Well, he talked about gifted. I mean, that doesn't mean he didn't say he's a better player. He said gifted. And KD is undeniably as gifted, if not more so than anybody we've seen. I mean, the combination of size and length and skill set and particularly the ability to score. So, I mean, I think that Steve Kerr was speaking in nuance, and people need to understand it and take it that way, and not as if he said, oh my God, Steve Kerr just said KD's better than Michael Jordan. He didn't say that. He was drawing some very nuanced comparisons that are worth listening to from Steve Kerr.
Big Perk?
Well, you know how I feel about Kevin Durant. I feel like he's the best scorer to ever touch the basketball. And Steve Kerr meant that by saying that. He didn't mean a better all-around player. Here it is, right? We saw someone mimic Michael Jordan offensively and Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll ever see another Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
Not a guy that's 6'11", 7 foot with the handle, the pull-up 3-ball, the 1-2 dribble pull-ups, could get to the rack, has a post game. It's just a beautiful thing to watch. And most importantly, he's so damn efficient.
I think Kevin Durant's the best offensive player in the game today. He's the best offensive player in the world. I have no problem with it. But I will get on both of y'all about something. You know, listen, I do understand. Just work with me here. Work with me here. I get gifted. But you know what else is a gift? The mental makeup. That is a gift. I view that as a gift. And when we think about what we hold against LeBron James at times, we hold against him what he was in the beginning, those first 6-7 years, before he learned how to win in Miami with Pat Riley and D. Wade. We look at Kevin Durant, the efficiency we talked about. If Kevin Durant had Michael Jordan's mentality or Kobe Bryant's mentality, I don't think he would have ever left OKC. He wouldn't have had to, at least not before he won a title. He wouldn't have had to go to Golden State in order to win a title. We wouldn't be talking about him in Brooklyn. That's the way I look at it. So it's not to cast aspersions on him in any way. I'm just saying Steve Kerr, who's a champion personified as a player, as a coach, and by the way, would have had it a GM if D'Antoni had listened to him and let Tom Thibodeau comes in there as their defensive coordinator years ago in Phoenix. Steve Kerr knows what he's talking about, which means why would you leave out the mental portion of it? Because to me, that's innate. That's a gift. What do you say to that?
I don't think he left it out. And by the way, I agree with you. Look, I hate to talk about this because it always makes it seem like you're trying to criticize KD or LeBron.
Not at all.
But the reason I will never put them, probably never, with Michael Jordan is each guy, as great as he is, had to leave where he was and hook up with somebody who had already won
to learn how to
win. Michael didn't have to do that. And to me, there is credit given for it, credit earned, and that is the mental makeup. That is just the dogged determination. If we evaluate that and put it there, I am not putting LeBron and KD with, and certainly not above, MJ. Each guy is great, but he had to leave and join up with an already made champion to win.
Right. That's right. I totally agree with you. And I'm not going to give you a chance to chime in on that.
I didn't want no parts of it anyway.
Because you might say,
I didn't want no parts of it anyway.
You might say something that makes me say, oh, no, you did it. No, you did it. Let's go to that top 5 list right now. Let's go to number 5 on the list, please. Packers offensive tackle, David Bakhtiari. All right, chugs a beer in less than 3 seconds in game 1 of the Bucs versus the Hawks. Oh, no, you didn't. Do that at the Milwaukee Bucks game. Oh, no, you didn't. You probably slid some over to the Milwaukee Bucks, which explains why they didn't guard Trae Young all night long. Oh, no, you didn't do that, David Bakhtiari. Oh, no, you didn't. Looking forward to seeing you on the football field this season. By the way. Packers are good, but you got to get Aaron Rodgers back. Number 4 on the list, Tennessee guard Keon Johnson. Look at this right here. Recorded a 48-inch mass vertical jump at the NBA Scouting Combine. Oh, no, you didn't. Show off everybody like that. Oh, no, you didn't. You can jump. Lord help you if you get to the NBA and suddenly you can't dunk right. You can't dunk right. That leap is the highest the event has ever seen by 2.5 inches, by the way. The highest the event has ever seen. Oh, no, you didn't break records like that. Oh, no, you didn't. Let's go to number 3 on the list, please. Trae Young. Look at this. Throws alley-oop off the glass at John Collins. Yeah! No, you didn't. Dunk on Brook Lopez like that. Oh, no, you didn't. Showing Mike Budenholzer. Brook Lopez didn't belong in the damn game. Why are you even there in uniform? Just sit down for the rest of the series. You can't guard anybody in this series. No, you didn't get dunked on like that.
In the Eastern Conference
no, you didn't. In the Eastern Conference Finals. Very, very embarrassing. Very embarrassing. Let's go to number 2 on the list, please. Here it is. Major League Baseball Nationals take it on the Phillies. Kyle Schwarber hits a 3-run homer to tie the game at 5. The Nationals, look at after they hit this home run. After Schwarber hits this home run, look at what the Nationals tweet out. Game-tying 3-pointers in Philly this year. Ben Simmons 0. Kyle Schwarber 1. Oh, no, y'all did it. Disrespect Ben Simmons like that. You know it's bad. You know it's bad when Major League Baseball dissing you. You know it's bad when Major League Baseball dissing you. The nerve of them. Oh, no, you didn't. Let's go to number 1. Look at Trae. Look at the crossover on Drew Holiday. Then the shimmy. Wait and drill a 3. Oh, no, you didn't. Embarrassed. All NBA defensive player Drew Holiday like that. And the Milwaukee Bucks, by the way. Oh, no, you didn't. That's Trae Young. en route to 48 points.
Disrespect.
11 assists in game 1. Lord have mercy. Coming up tonight, game 3 of the Western Conference Finals at 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Will the Clippers get their first win of the series? Predictions are next. Yes, I am. Here's a look back at an amazing ending in game 2.
Phoenix ball, 9/10 remaining.
Yeah, what I was telling you, when you roll, they got nothing for that. If he throws it, you got to try to dunk it.
Crowder looking, throws it alley. Oh! He puts it down! He puts it down! It's over!
That's just execution at its finest.
Lobs it up top. It goes in! Aiden, miraculously!
He's just turning into a really dominant player. It's just me doing what I do best, just finishing above the rim. I like that. I like that.
Look at that right there. That finish was absolutely incredible, as you see here, and the crowd went nuts, including 2 people in particular who stood shell-shocked. Myself and Mike Wilbon right there. That was us, Big Perk. We were stunned.
I tell you what, look, y'all were, but that's a picture that needs to be framed. No, seriously. That's a picture that needs to be framed.
Both of us speechless. Nothing to say for the longest period of our lives.
That's
Stephen
right. And no question, I never seen anything like that. That was something special. Here's the deal, y'all. Game time's approaching, a little over an hour away. Game 3, Clippers, Phoenix Suns. Perk, you first. Prediction.
You know, it's hard for me to go against Ty Lue, okay? And we know he make adjustments. But he got another coach over there in Monty Williams who's ready to play chess as well. They're getting CP3 back. I have the Clippers winning game 3. I mean, I have the Suns winning game 3. Excuse me.
I got you. Go ahead, Wilbon.
I was trying to talk myself into it. I mean, the Clippers need this game. They've been down 0-2. This is not new to them. Like you, Ty Lue, I hate going against him. But I'm going to go back to that theme. Right. Booker, Crowder, Bridges, Paul. There was no real production there in game 2. All those guys, they're going to be limited tonight.
Right.
They got answers for all that for the Clippers. I don't see that. I see the Suns winning.
I'm rolling against both of y'all. I'm going with the Clippers tonight. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going with the Clippers tonight, man. It's hard for me to look at those Rough Riders because they are. They got a lot of heart. They got skill over there, too. It's hard for me to look at the Clippers getting swept. That's where I'm at with this. I could see them losing this series, but I don't see them getting swept. I'm like, you can't get one game? What?
Well, they could lose tonight and get one.
Well, I don't think they go. Listen, if they lose tonight, they get swept. They get swept. They lose tonight, they get swept. That's why I'm picking them to win game 3 tonight, because I believe Reggie Jackson's going to step up. I believe Terrence Mann is going to see some time. I believe Marcus Morris is going to step up, okay? And I believe that Chris Paul is going to be a tad bit rusty. And I think the combination of all of those things are going to enable the Clippers to escape with a game 3, Perk.
Well, listen, I know Reggie Jackson has been playing phenomenal, and I believe he will step up on the offensive end, and he has stepped up on the offensive end. But defensively, he haven't been able to guard a caged dog.
Okay. Oh, wow. What you got Booker scoring tonight?
26.
What you got Booker scoring tonight?
25.
I got him for 33.
Ooh.
I got him for 33.
You got him for 33 in the loss?
Yes, 33 in the loss. That's right, 33 in the loss. What about CP3?
I got CP3 in the 20s. More importantly, assists.
Right.
And he ain't going to turn it over more than once or twice.
Well, he can't be better than Cameron Payne. 37 minutes, not a single turnover, with 29 points and 8 assists.
They got both of them.
Let's go compromise the rhythm. What about you, Bert?
I got CP3 having a solid 15 points and about 12 assists tonight.
Okay, that's reasonable. I mean, 15 points, 12 assists, with Devin Booker dropping about 33. You can still lose. If the Clippers lose tonight, is it over?
Yeah.
I'm talking about sweep.
Oh, I don't know about a sweep. If the series, if they go down 3-0, listen, we're talking about a team that's won 9 straight playoff games.
Okay.
Never in the history of the franchise have they done that.
Well, Stephen A., I was with you. When the Clippers lost game 2, the series is over.
That's right. I'm with you. If Clippers lose tonight, this series is over Saturday. This series is over Saturday, Clippers. If you lose tonight, that means you can't lose. It means you can't get swept. You don't want that to happen to you.
He just don't want to come back to the desert, because I know that coyote is waiting on him.
Coyote's waiting for me. I'm kicking it to the countdown crew. The countdown crew know what I'm talking about when I bring up coyotes. Later.
Welcome to NBA Countdown, presented by Mountain Dew.
Hello and welcome back to NBA Countdown for our Western Conference Finals coverage. Maria Taylor alongside the very busy Adrian Wojnarowski. He just got off the phone. He's got plenty of reporting for us here today. We've got Jalen Rose in a brand new gray suit, and we've got Jay Williams here again with you. And guys, we have a busy show, but we also have a special preview from Marvel Studios, a trailer coming your way. It's called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And speaking of legends, the legend of Trae Young is growing. And, you know, obviously we start in Atlanta because why wouldn't we? We start with the Mountain Dew three-point performance and the Hawks taking on the Bucks in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. You saw the Hawks make 8 three-pointers, 4 of which came from Trae Young. He's now up to 38 three-pointers in the playoffs, just one shy of tying Kyle Korver for the most in a single postseason in Hawks history. And speaking of Trae, he dropped 48 points last night, matching LeBron James in 2007 for the most points in a conference or division finals game by a player at age 22 or younger. In total, he scored or assisted on 72 points. That's the most in a conference finals game all time. And really, Atlanta's trying to make it to the finals for the first time since the franchise has even been in the city of Atlanta, and they're looking like they've been there before. How many times have we seen them go on the road, take Game 1 with their backs against the wall, and it was all started and founded on the play of Trae Young?
I say. Did you say the road? Averaging 33 points and 9 assists, the 23-year-old to be in September on the road. But I like his charisma, his flair for the dramatic. And it's not just shooting the three-point shot. It's also his dimes, passes off the backboard, behind the back pass, a little shimmy, ya, before he knocks down the open jump shot. And make sure you get that crossover in there, too, before he makes the shot. He's leading this Hawks basketball team with injuries. Bogdanovich dealing with a knee injury. Hunter is out. Is Reddish going to play? The common denominator, Trae Young has been dominant.
You know, since draft night in 2018 when Atlanta traded the rights to Luka Doncic to take Trae Young, people have wanted them to apologize in Atlanta for it. Travis Schlenk, their general manager, Trae Young, they're not going to have to apologize for that deal. And, you know, you look at DeAndre Ayton, who's the #1 pick in that draft, and the way he's emerged in these playoffs. Trae Young is on his way. You know, we've talked about Luka Doncic being a future MVP in the league. I think Trae Young is going to be in that conversation and not too much further into his career.
Can we stop with all the debate about whether Trae Young is a superstar or not? I mean, he's next level.
I was never debating that.
Nobody's debating that.
Well, I mean, some people were debating that.
Until you do it in the playoffs,
Understood.
that question, he's doing it.
And he's been doing it in the playoffs, 48 points in the Eastern Conference Finals. Right. He is that guy. And I tried to tell my man Jay Rose, he kept gloating about how good the Bucks were defensively. I said if they played drop coverage, it was going to be a problem for the Bucks. Before you talk, hold on. Let me break it down. Let me show you.
Well, I got hacked.
Let me show you what I have meant. Professor Jay's breakdown. So you're going to see a little full court pressure here on Marcus Teague. He's up in the pocket, but here comes the screen. Now pay attention to where Brook Lopez is. This is what I mean by drop coverage. He is below the free throw line. You have to understand, Trae Young, this is called big game hunting. When he sees this screen, if Brook Lopez is not up there hedging on the screen, if Trae Young does not see dual coverage coming off that screen, he's going to be wide open for a three-point shot. 50% from the field for 48 points. Let me show you a play on how they actually defended it correctly.
I'm sorry, Professor. I'm sorry.
Got it. They moved Giannis to the 5. Now you're going to see a double screen up top, okay? You're going to see Clint Capella come for that double screen. Giannis is now guarding the screen, the final screener. They're going to switch. One screen to another, switch. Here comes another switch. Now Trae comes off this. He sees the distance to Giannis, okay? Really, really tall, 7'3" wingspan. He can play off, but also contest late. Now, here's the thing. Watch every player for the Hawks uniform. They're staring at the flight of the ball. Long shots equal long rebounds. Drew Holiday gets the rebound. Giannis is out in transition. Drew Holiday grabs down the rebound. Giannis is gone in transition. Kevin Huerter tries to get back, but Giannis seals him over the top. This is what you love, and this is what the Bucks are great at doing. Transition points. Give the ball to Giannis over the top, an easy lay, and one. Look, there's no reason the Bucks need to take 36 three-point shots. Run the ball, punish them down low, and have Giannis at the 5 so you get more versatility off defense.
And basically get Brook Lopez out of the game.
1,000%
in those situations. Have Giannis play the 5, switch it, and then get the run out so you can try to punish him on the other end.
Well, let me ask you this, because you broke down the drop coverage perfectly, but we've seen teams blitz Trae Young. I mean, we've seen 2 of the top defensive teams in the league in the 76ers, and the Knicks play against them.
Ain't nothing worse.
I'm just saying. So, but for real, like, how do you play defense against Trae Young when we've seen every single defense try to slow down and contain him?
Well, when somebody says you got to stop him, you're not going to stop him.
Contain is the word.
Contain, that's right.
Contain
him, give him different looks, give him size, make him shoot over the length.
You know, what has helped Trae Young so much this season is the shooting that Travis Schlenk put around him on the court, bringing in Danilo Gallinari, bringing in Bogdanovic, Kevin Huerter's emergence. He is a great passer, and people certainly saw that in college too. He is not just a scorer, and so if you try to load up on Trae Young, he's going to make you pay, and more than even certainly way more than what Luka Doncic has in Dallas, he has shooters on the court who are going to make you pay.
But he also has a float game.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is you can have Giannis out there, you can have Lopez out there. He'll break those guys down, and he'll shoot his floater, or he'll throw it over the top to Collins, throw it over the top to Capella. He's becoming an unstoppable offensive weapon.
And we can't stress enough that obviously the Hawks, they started out this season, though, being 14-20. Nate McMillan takes over March 1st and turns everything around for this team, and that's kind of been the difference maker. And also, as you pointed out before, Woj, it took time for this team to gel because not everyone was available. They dealt with COVID protocols. We didn't know what team we were going to see in the postseason.
Listen, you had Bogdanovic out for a long period of time with an injury. Bogdanovic had a leg injury. This was a team that we didn't really see their full complement of players until late in the year, and really once Nate McMillan took over and you saw the impact Clint Capella has had around the basket for him. A trade last year kind of went under the radar, but you've really seen his development this year. He was obviously a very good player in the postseason for Houston. This is a deep, talented team that's going to be around for a long time.
All right, well, this team now looking to take another game on the road against Milwaukee. They've taken game 1 for the 3rd time so far in these playoffs. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Suns, guys, they've won 9 straight games, the longest streak in franchise history. Booker's, he's got the face mask on, got to protect the nose.
He get his running mate Chris Paul back. Him and Cameron Payne have been holding it down. Now Book can be
on his phone and really actually reporting before the show came on. He's asking during the breaks if he can go and take calls. And
he locked himself in the room before he came on set.
And we got loud and he had to shut the door, okay, because he was busy, because you had some reporting coming out of Dallas. So give us the latest.
Yeah, my colleague Tim McMahon and I are reporting that the Mavericks are progressing in talks with Jason Kidd to make him Dallas's next head coach. Mark Cuban's also close, we're told, to hiring a new head of basketball operations, who we're told is on board with the Jason Kidd hiring. He's obviously been with the Lakers the last couple of years, was a head coach in Milwaukee and Brooklyn, and of course helped lead the Mavericks to that 2011 NBA title. And the coach who left Dallas last week, Rick Carlisle, he's on his way to Indiana. As Tim McMahon reported, nearly a $30 million deal over 4 years. I think Indiana showing, they're willing to spend and commit to a roster in Indiana that has, certainly a very good young nucleus that in the Eastern Conference, I think can aspire to be a conference semifinalist. Who knows if things break right. So Rick Carlisle back to Indiana, and Jason Kidd now working through contract talks to become the next head coach with the Mavs.
And we're slowly starting to see a sea change that's happening in the NBA. One of the frustrations of former players is that many felt like either retreads got jobs, or if they got one job, they didn't get a second one. Okay. So now you see Monty Williams succeeding, Ty Lue succeeding as head coaches, Nate McMillan as well. So now with Jason Kidd, Ime Udoka, that now opens up the floodgates, hopefully, for people like Becky Hammond and Chauncey Billups and Darvin Ham.
Yeah, and I love Jason Kidd. Look, all the reports you hear out of LA, the relationship that he had with LeBron James, how he's able to see the game, and I think he's able to translate that. I mean, just think about if you're Luka Doncic, you're like, wow. I now have Jason Kidd at the helm that could teach me how to manage a team and be a next-level player.
Mm-hmm. And Rick Carlisle, he's really in the corner of Jason Kidd, saying that he would be a coach that he would want to be in the Dallas Mavericks as that head coach. And also, he's been to the playoffs 3 times as a head coach. It would be his 3rd stop. But let's move on to Philly, because you've also had some reporting coming out today, Woj, about Ben Simmons and talks between him and the franchise about what's next for him.
Yeah, Ben Simmons' agent, Rich Paul of Clutch Sports, met with Sixers management yesterday in Chicago, Daryl Morey, their president, Elton Brand, their GM, to talk about Ben Simmons' future in Philly and whether that might necessitate a trade. Now, he did not ask for a trade. They're going to continue talking as this summer goes through, but right now, Philadelphia is committed to trying to figure this out with Ben Simmons. He met with Doc Rivers in Philly before they departed after the loss to Atlanta and talked about some ideas of how they can improve his foul shooting this summer, certainly his shooting. Philadelphia knows that if you were going to trade a player of Ben Simmons' caliber, you want to do it when he's at the apex of his trade value. He may not be at the very top of that after this postseason, but there is a lot of interest in Ben Simmons around the league. I think this conversation is going to move forward, but right now Philly is saying we still want to build around Embiid and Simmons.
As long as Philadelphia remains realistic about the value of Ben Simmons, because the days of you getting James Harden in return, like you said, Woj, they're not there right now. I think you look for depth or you look for flexibility within that roster spot. But look, Ben Simmons is not a point guard. Ben Simmons is a supercharged Draymond Green. He is at the 4 spot. He is a dunk spot. He can provide that continuity to your offense. And I got a chance to talk to multiple people over the last couple of days. He can shoot. I think it's also the culture that you have him in. I think there's finally now accountability with the 76ers, and that's never really been the case for him nor Joel Embiid their entire career in Philly.
Well, superstars obviously can do it all, but most of us have to be in the league either because of our skill or because of our will. And to me, this is the fork in the road for Ben Simmons. Is he going to own the style of dirty work, getting rebounds, play defense, and not be a shooter, or continue to work on his skill and be a better free throw shooter, attempt shots outside of the paint? But here are two things that work against Ben, in my opinion. I said this when he was young in his career. He's only 25 years old, by the way. Number one, I believe he shoots with the wrong hand. When he goes to the free throw line, he shoots with his left. When he finishes at the hole, he does it with his right. And when he dunks, the same thing. The other thing, he and Joel Embiid, when they're at their apex, occupy the same real estate. They both need the paint to be at their best. That's the problems that he has. And lastly, you still can't be going 4 or 5 games in the fourth quarter and not taking field goal attempts. To me, that's mental, and I hope that they can get through those hurdles.
Ben Simmons scored 19 points in the final 3 games against the Hawks, and obviously Philly lost in that series, and he has about $147 million left on his contract. Obviously, we'll see what happens to the young player, and again, like you said, under 25. Show you the all-masked team because Devin Booker got hit in the nose in Game 2. Obviously, he came back out, and today in Game 3, he's already sporting his mask during warm-up, so he's already dropped a 40-point triple-double. Obviously, he helped get the win in Game 2. We'll see what he has for us here on the road, but we know he'll have on a mask.
He was born in Michigan. I already know what it is. He's going to be out there ready to ball. His father going to make sure that he's ready to ball. But in all seriousness, he's been terrific in this series.
Yes.
And Chris Paul is returning. That is not good for the Clippers.
Okay, let's talk about Chris Paul returning. Obviously, coming out of the health and safety protocols, he's missed the first 2 games of this series. And Woj, it's an addition that's huge because we talked about the veteran leadership of Chris Paul, and obviously this team has responded well without him. But what does it mean to have that guy back running point guard?
Well, think too what it means for the Los Angeles Clippers. They couldn't get a game on Phoenix with Chris Paul out of the lineup. He's coming back, and there is no sign of Kawhi Leonard coming back in this series. And I think the role that Cam Payne has played in this series has been remarkable. And this is a Phoenix team that you saw. They've grown so much having Chris Paul as their leader this year. And you saw that growth even more without him on the floor. And this is a team that's coming in the Staples Center with the return of Chris Paul, not just what he means as a leader and spiritually for this team, but a player who's at the apex of his game. Phoenix is coming in with a mindset to close this Clipper team out, that they may be outmanned against Phoenix right now.
And you acknowledged it, Woj. Usually when you're waiting for the cavalry to come, it's because you're in trouble. Yeah. You're in despair. You're down 0-2. They get Chris Paul back, and they're up 2-0 with Devin Booker, Cam Payne, and DeAndre Ayton all playing well offensively, keeping their turnovers down. The Los Angeles Clippers going to be imperative for them to get off to a great start, Jay Williams, and try to ignite their crowd because this Phoenix team is really confident.
Jay Rose, real talk. The Phoenix Suns have championship flow and continuity offensively. There's not a better team offensively left to compete for a world championship than the Phoenix Suns. The way they run CP3 and Devin Booker off high screens, how do you guard it? Do you blitz them? Well, they both have high basketball IQs, but they're surrounded with shooters. Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and they both make the right plays. And when he ascends along, and I'm not even talking about Cam Payne.
I know.
Cameron Payne has been said he had 29 points last game.
Champagne and campaign.
So the addition of him, just their depth, they might be the most complete team left here.
Give campaigns full stats, because 29 points, 9 assists, 0 turnovers. You know, like the fact that he's also protecting the ball, and that's something that we talked about the Phoenix Suns, they don't give the ball up. Like, they're just a very disciplined team in what they've been able to do. And we keep talking about the Clippers battling back from being down 0-2, but there is no Kawhi in this series, and that's obviously one of the biggest differences. And so what does it look like if they can come here and win a game, because they are 8-1 in games 2 through 7?
And Morris has been hobbled. This is when you need everybody playing above how they've already performed in this series, okay? Because they have been down 0-2, and Ty Lue has been a coach that's come back from that deficit 4 times. But in this postseason, doing it twice, they had Kawhi Leonard in games 3 and 4. Right? They're not going to have him this time.
Yeah, that Clipper margin of error is so small right now, smaller than it's been at any point in any of these comebacks in the postseason.
Everybody needs to do what they do extremely well. Paul George, score. Reggie Jackson, score. Marcus Morris, be tough. And the X factor in this whole game, Patrick Beverley.
Okay.
Like that battle between him, CP3, and Devin Booker, his best attribute is his energy and effort he brings to the table. He has to be a gnat 24/7.
And also, Paul George, how he responds to missing 2 free throws late. He understands that he built so much equity within fandom, within the media, but more importantly in his locker room, right, Maria?
Yeah.
And when you miss 2 free throws late and you lose in a heartbreaking fashion, I hope he comes out and is really aggressive in the first half and gets himself going.
Missed the 2 free throws with 8 seconds left to play. Obviously the difference in that ball game, late game situations. But we've also seen incredible performances on the Clippers side. If we're talking about X factors, we've seen it from Terrence Mann before. We saw it against the Jazz, and he had 39 points in order for them to clinch and actually make it here to the Western Conference Finals. So we'll see whether or not they can do that again with additional guys stepping up. There goes the X factor. Nope.